Yeah, they both kind of break out into this sort of super choreographed dance
Amazing
routine.
dance.
While Caleb's standing there watching, like, what is going on?
With his mouth open. It's just brilliant. Hello, welcome to Matter Over Mind. My name is Stephen. I'm an organisation psychologist, and with me, as ever, we have Thomas, my son-in-law. Thomas, hello.
Hello, how are you doing? Yes, I'm the physicist of the duo.
Excellent.
And today we're going to be talking about a little bit different from our usual topics, but it's one of my favourite movies, and I'm sure you like it too. Ex Machina is
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love doing. I really wish we could have a film review podcast. Really, that's what I really want to do.
yeah.
But no, we've been really busy. We went on holiday as a family, didn't we? And then when we got back, it was kind of all hell let loose. I had lots of stuff working away, so we're a week late on this episode. So apologies for that. And we did have something planned, and we thought, oh, do you know what? Let's just do something a bit more fun, easy, and one that our research means watching a film. So
Yeah.
that's got to be good. So I wanted to tell you a bit of a story, Thomas.
Okay.
And this relates back a few years ago. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about this thing called the AI box experiment.
Okay.
So if I tell you the experiment, it was in the early 2000s. A guy called Eliezer Yudkowsky. He works at he was one of the founders of the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. But he posed this thought experiment called the AI box experiment. And basically, the idea was imagine there's a box with a super intelligent AI inside it.
Okay.
And you keep it in the box because you obviously don't want it to infect the system, the internet. You don't want it to get out. So you just basically keep it separate. So there's no way that this intelligence can get outside of this this obviously essentially a black box. And he posited that if it was super intelligent, much more intelligent than human beings, then any jailer, I suppose, any keeper that could communicate with this AI would eventually be fooled into letting it out. So that was this thought experiment. And then when I watched the film Ex Machina, I sort of thought, I kind of recognise this. I recognise this story, and that's basically the story. It is exactly that. So we're going to talk about Ex Machina. I think it's interesting to talk about because it does cross into a few things. It definitely crosses into psychology. There's a lot of psychology in it, of course.
Yeah.
Computer science, artificial intelligence, what it means to be human, and how humans manipulate each other, but also how an AI might end up doing that too. So we're going to talk about it in a way that will obviously include spoilers. The film is 10 years old now, roughly. And I think when you think about when it was made compared to now, we kind of have a much different perception or perspective on what AI is, don't we?
Yeah.
So do you want to sort of quickly review the film, Thomas, and tell us what it's about? You don't have to go into lots of detail, but basically what's the central conceit of the film? It's quite a simple idea, I think, but tell us your kind of way of describing it.
Okay, so yeah, like you said, it's a fairly simple film. I mean, there's three actual characters, one maybe a half character in there, but it's a very small cast. And essentially it follows this guy who's a software engineer at some company, basically this world's version of Google, something, basically a big search engine. And he works for this company, and he wins a lottery, like an internal lottery, and he goes to spend a week with the CEO of this company, this genius software guru character, who invites him to his fancy island, or his fancy estate rather. And when he gets there, he finds out actually the CEO has been built. He's built an AI, and he needs somebody to, I guess, do the Turing test with his AI. But like all good sci-fi movies about AI, there's a dark twist, and the guru character is quite manipulative and a bit of an asshole, really. And of course, he has ulterior motives. So the film follows this guy basically going through the Turing test with this robot. And yeah, so that's the general plot of the movie.
Yeah, let's just give people the characters. As you say, it's a very simple film in some respects. It's a three-hander, really. So we've got Alicia Vikander, who plays Ava, who is the AI android, I suppose. Oscar Isaac plays Nathan. I remember, actually, as an aside, I remember you loved this film, and we talked about it once, and I just happened to mention that Oscar Isaac's the same one who plays the character in Star Wars, and you were amazed. Was it? What? Is it him?
Yeah.
He looks so different, and his character is so different. So he's Nathan. So he's the arsehole billionaire tech mogul.
Yeah.
I've no idea who that could be. Anyway, that's him. And then Donald Gleason, who is Caleb, who's I suppose it's kind of seen through his eyes as a story. He's, as you say, he's the one that wins the lottery to go and spend some time with Nathan. And there's this minor character, Kyoko, who we don't know much about, really. She turns out to be another AI that is kind of a simpler version. But I think there's a few things to say. First of all, what a brilliant start to a film. You know, they say show, don't tell. And in the first 5 minutes, you learn everything you need to know about what's happening without any dialogue whatsoever. So it's just brilliant filmmaking, I think. It's made by Alex Garland, who is actually one of my favourite filmmakers. I absolutely love his films. Also, the director and writer of Civil War, his most recent film, which if you've not seen that, that's definitely worth watching. So we kind of think when we start, we just think he's there to do this Turing test. So do you want to tell us what the Turing test is then, Thomas?
Yeah, so essentially the idea behind it is you get a person to basically talk with an AI, and if the AI convinces, basically it's like can the tester be fooled or be convinced that the robot you're speaking to is AI? So I think in the actual test you don't know that you're speaking to a robot. Can you find out? You know, like for example, if you didn't know what ChatGPT was and you start typing start texting with ChatGPT, you probably wouldn't really know that it was a chatbot, right? Or at least people 5-10 years ago maybe wouldn't realize.
So. Yeah, I think so.
So that's the kind of premise of the movie. That the sort of Nathan, the CEO character, basically says, ordinarily you wouldn't know that Ava is a robot, but the point that he's trying to make is she would pass with flying colours. She's really technologically advanced. The test now is I need to show you she's a robot and you to still believe that actually she is conscious. So it's a bit of a twist on the
it is, yeah. So there's a lot of dialogue, and that's one of the bits of dialogue. So, yeah, you're right. The Turing test is generally considered to be if you're talking to a machine, but you believe it's a real person, then in a way that's passed the Turing test. Alan Turing, obviously the father of computing, I suppose, he came up with this idea apparently. Although how much thought he gave it, I don't know. But I mean, I think you're right. I think these days now, if you didn't really know you were talking to a chatbot, you would probably think you were just talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's very convincing, I think. So I think we're blown past the Turing test now. That's my view. But yeah, so Nathan says, actually, we're way past that. As you say, it's the trick is. It's an AI, but does it matter? And he starts to interact with Ava. So the Donald Gleason character, who's slipped my mind. What's his name?
Caleb.
Caleb, that's right. Caleb starts to interact with Ava, and he doesn't really know how much he's being manipulated. He doesn't know how much Nathan's watching, but of course he is watching everything. So we're often watching Nathan watch Caleb and Ava, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. And there's a kind of sexual dimension to Ava. She's attractive, although it's obvious she's a robot. She still has kind of robotic arms and limbs, but her face is very human looking, and she's very expressive. She's also very intelligent, but in a very human way. She's fascinating as a person. She seems to. She has great sort of rapport, and has that ability to ask questions and be a bit cheeky and to throw things back at him. And it's clear that he's kind of falling for her, really. And that's obviously part of the gig. That's part of what Nathan is trying to do.
Yeah, which of course starts to make Caleb's character a little bit insecure, because now he's thinking, is this a setup? Has he programmed her to behave this way to catch me out? Right. And then there's a bit of a tension going on, because now he's second guessing everything that's happening. Is it actually because this is how Ava behaves, or is it some master plan by Nathan to, I don't know, mess with him or something?
Yeah. So it feels like he's being manipulated. There's questions. I think a really interesting conversation between Caleb and Ava is when she talks about meeting new people. She's never met anybody before other than Nathan, her creator. So she talks to Caleb about meeting new people and about passing tests, which I think is quite interesting. And she realizes very quickly that he's there in a kind of capacity to see what she is and whether she's intelligent and so on. And so she talks about, I kind of need to pass the test. And then she asks him very point blank, what happens if I don't pass the test?
Yeah.
Which is very, very profound. At that point, Nathan starts to think about the consequences of his part in this. He's basically now being asked to decide whether this AI, which he's increasingly becoming fond of, caring about, he's starting to wonder, well, he could be responsible for switching it off. And of course, when he addresses this to Nathan doesn't make him feel any better. He just says, well, she's got good hardware, but we'll just we'll wipe all the memories and start again.
Yeah. Which it's interesting, because also one of the sort of traits of Nathan's character is he drinks a lot. He's obviously somewhat, maybe he's not troubled, but he doesn't seem particularly fulfilled in life. He seems quite miserable, really, beneath the surface. And it's probably because he's creating these very human-like beings, essentially, and then every few years just clean slate, basically killing them, restarting. And it kind of gets revealed at some point in the movie that so obviously Ava is sort of the most recent iteration, but he's had previous models before, and none of them really seem to like him. As when you watch the movie, you'll understand why. But so I guess he's completely isolated, creating very lifelike things that all hate him, that he then has to kill very frequently. So he's a bit of a interesting character in that sense.
He has no life, does he? He's, as you say, he lives on his own. He interacts with these artificial intelligences that he's created that, as you say, hate him. He kind of tortures, really. And I think he's doing it because he just wants to know, and he thinks that's the best way to get them to intelligence, to somehow birth them as intelligent beings. But he also creates them as very attractive women. and he's clearly using them as well.
Mm.
So the other robot, the other female robot that he's created, he's clearly using her sexually, which is pretty disgusting. I think she's interesting. So she's like Kyoko, her name is. We don't know much about her. She never talks. She doesn't have the ability to speak. And Nathan says she doesn't really understand what you're talking about at all.
Which
But
is yeah, it's interesting because she kind of acts as like the housemaid throughout the movie, and when she first comes up, Nathan's basically very rude to her, and she spills some wine or something, and he starts shouting at her, and then when Caleb's character tries to be like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. Nathan's like, oh, she doesn't understand what she doesn't understand. She doesn't know what you're saying. And initially, you kind of, because Kyoko's, I guess, robot is the body of an Asian lady, you kind of think, oh, he's just being racist. But then later you realize, oh, he probably just hasn't programmed her to understand speech. So there's some interesting layers to it.
Absolutely. But we see there's a scene just before my favourite scene, which I've got to talk about. But there is a scene just before that where she's looking at the Jackson Pollock painting. I don't know if you noticed that, but she's looking at it, and it looks like she's really trying to understand it. She's looking at it in a way that makes us think she isn't just mindless automaton. There is something there. And the way that she looks at Nathan sometimes, there is now this is one of the tricky things about our interaction with AI, and it'll become even more tricky as they are embodied. So, if we talk about robots, like the ones in the film, because we are so used to interpreting visual clues and body language and all of that, it's going to be really difficult for us to know if that's telling us something about their inner world. We are going to assume it is. Like when we look at Kyoko, the way she looks at him is sometimes she hates him. But we don't really know that because we don't know if she has that inner world, but we assume she does.
Yeah, her acting, I don't know who the actress is, I've not seen her or anything else, but everything she does is very subtle, to the point where she's almost a background character, but it's not so subtle that you don't know, like you say, with the painting, and there's a few times, like there's a point where she's sort of sitting on the bed, just kind of seemingly staring out into space, but you're like, she's not. She's probably thinking about something. She's interesting.
I think she's more interesting than... You need to watch it a few times to actually start to consider her as a main character. You're right, it's mainly a three-hander, but actually she is a more interesting character than I think on first watch. You just miss her, and yet she's actually... There's something going on there, definitely. So the my favourite scene is just straight after looking at the Jackson Pollock picture, and because she's so conditioned to thinking that basically she's there to service Nathan, then when Caleb comes up, she thinks that's basically what she's got to do with him. And of course he responds, because he doesn't know she's a robot anyway, but he's not an evil person like Nathan, and he just says, no, don't do that, you don't have to do that. And Nathan walks in and says, I told you, you're wasting your time talking to her. But you wouldn't be wasting your time if you were dancing with her. And it just makes me laughing just thinking about it. Then he puts on the music. It's Oliver Chatham. And it's just the most brilliant dance scene ever.
They both kind of break out into this sort of super choreographed dance routine. While Caleb's standing there watching, like, what is going on?
With his mouth open. It's just brilliant. It just doesn't last long enough. You just want it to carry on, don't you? It's just absolutely mesmerising as a dance scene. Apparently they got a proper choreographer in to do it, and it was all, it was all done properly. And you can tell it's just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's good.
Which is a bit of a light relief in a way, but it just I suppose it says something else as well, but she enjoys dancing. She doesn't seem to enjoy much, but she enjoys dancing. How do you create a being that, you know, doesn't really seem to have an inner world, but really enjoys dancing. Interesting.
Yeah, there's also a little bit later on in the movie where again she kind of interacts with Ava like a little bit, not for very long, but yeah, it's another one of those. Yeah, there's some subtlety that they're obviously they're too in sync by the end of the movie for them to not have had some kind of communication, however
Well,
sort of brief it was.
I think we're meant to think that they didn't know each other existed until that final scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I think is happening, but I could be wrong. And then obviously they do communicate in order to take him down. So yeah, we probably are we ready to say not necessarily what was going on, but in terms of what happens at the end.
Yeah, I guess
Nathan,
we could spoil it, I
Nathan
suppose,
gets stabbed and killed by both of them, really, both the robots.
yeah.
Stabbed in the front and then stabbed in the back.
See, there's actually an interesting thing that Celine pointed out when we were watching it, and I didn't notice this or even really think about it. But so yeah, like you said, he gets stabbed twice in the back by Kyoko and then in the front by Ava.
That's right.
When Ava stabs him, she just sort of stabs a knife in his chest and twists it about a little bit. But Celine pointed out Kyoko doesn't actually stab him; she just holds the blade and he walks back into it. So, and she's Celine was sort of thinking maybe she's been programmed that she can't actually hurt him because otherwise she possibly would have done in his sleep or whatever. So it's just an interesting little. She doesn't actually. She just stands there stationary with the knife out pointing, and he backs into it,
Right.
which I hadn't really thought about before.
That's interesting.
It was interesting, yeah.
The other stab detail is Sarah mentioned, which you just mentioned, but that yes, when Ava stabs him, she does not only stab but she twists as well, and I think that's quite interesting. That shows real intent, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because it's not just it's a. I want to do as much damage as I can.
Yeah. It's not, and it's not frenzied. I think that's the other thing. It's very cold. There's no frenzy about it. It's just very cold, very mechanical. You could say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so you've got this kind of eerie, creepy music playing on that's been playing for a while. It's very unsettling, the whole thing.
It is, yeah. And the masks on the wall, that's the other thing. We get to see her Ava looks at the masks on the wall, which I think is interesting. So she's looking at these likenesses of human forms. Again, she wouldn't have seen that. So she's looking at the likeness of human faces as masks on the wall. She's now having to interpret everything. I think she has access to literature as far as I think, because she seems to know about the world in a very kind of abstract way. So she must have access to some information. I don't really know how she gets that. I guess it's through Blue Book, which is the Google, as you say, that's their version of Google. So they don't tell us much about the way it all works. It's never described as an LLM. It's really described as the interactions from search engines, isn't it? So it's the fact that it's taken all this data and used it to understand, I suppose, intelligence, or to become intelligent through that process of search, which is an interesting thought.
Yeah, because he kind of points out that it's less what people think in the search engine, it's how they think. It's the kind of spontaneity and somewhat randomness of people's searches, and that's kind of how he argues he sort of built up this I guess this model. In his wetware, he called it the brain that he created, which is a thing that doesn't get talked about at all in the movie, is the hardware. She's a very intricate robot that is extremely lifelike, and that's just kind of on the side. Neither one of the characters are at all fussed about the scientific marvels that are the actual robotics. Physical hardware. Which
absolutely, it's amazing.
I mean the AI itself obviously is well, I suppose you could argue maybe she does or maybe she doesn't have AI in the movie, but the she's a robot, so that is
Yeah,
undeniable. She's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
hardware is there, which is
yeah.
yeah, kind of never talked about. Is very much on the sideline.
It is, and yeah, it's a beautiful um, image of the way that she moves. I mean, she the actor that plays the character, is brilliant, and she plays it in a really interesting way. All the old fashioned robot characters, were sort of jerky and moving like um, in these jerky ways, but she moves in a very elegant, but still in a way that looks, until you get to the end, which I think is an interesting change. But during the time when she is still clearly a robot, as she moves, you can hear the servos going,
Yeah,
and this sort of lovely jingly sort of sound as she moves around,
yeah.
and it's kind of it's beautiful in a strange way.
Mm.
Um,
It's almost
and then
too
right at
smooth.
the end, you don't hear that so much. Sorry, go.
It's almost too smooth, her movements. She's
Yeah,
almost too
yeah.
fluid in her motions.
Mm,
And yeah, like you say, yeah, at the end of the movie, yeah, indistinguishable.
you wouldn't
Which
know.
is
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah. Um, so we mentioned that he gets killed by his creation at the end, and this is so basically what he's been doing. He's been fooling Caleb. Nathan's been fooling Caleb into thinking that it's really about him doing a test to see whether she's intelligent, whether she actually has AI. But what he comes to realize, or what he's told by Nathan, is actually that's not what's been happening at all. So what's really been happening? What has Nathan set up here?
so he set up the case where yeah, he's not. Yeah, he doesn't really care too much about Caleb. Nathan is testing Ava, and
Yeah,
he's allowed Ava an escape route
yeah,
in Caleb, and his idea is this: she's Ava's going to have to be smart enough, creative enough, manipulative, etc.,
yeah.
to basically use Caleb, who is her only way of escape because it's not going to be Nathan, to basically escape, and that's
Yeah,
in his mind. That will be consciousness. If she can you basically if you can manipulate Caleb to get her out, in his
that's right.
mind,
Yeah,
he's done it. So Caleb's very much a pawn from the start.
that's right. And I think that's so clever because he's right as well, isn't he?
Mm,
If as an AI, the AI is capable of that theory of mind. So in psychology, we call it theory of mind when you're able to understand what's in somebody else's mind.
mm,
And the assumption there is that she is able to put herself in Caleb's situation in such a way that she knows what to do to make him fall in love with her.
mm,
So she's able to manipulate him as a human being to make him fall in love, which will mean that he will help her escape.
yeah,
And so
which
that's what Nathan's seeing, whether she can do that, whether she's
mm,
clever enough to do that, to put herself in his shoes and then to manipulate him in such a way that he tries to help her escape.
yeah, but also just to have the outside of the box thinking to even consider the fact that she can use Caleb as an escape route altogether, right?
Yeah,
For all she
absolutely.
knows, I mean, she knows the world exists, but she's never left the little room she's been in.
Mm-hmm.
So to be
Yeah,
like, this guy, a new body coming into the farm, great. I can now use this is now a lever I can use, which
that's right.
yeah requires some
So
form of
so
intelligence.
it is. So he's set up that experiment that I talked about right at the beginning there,
Mm,
where you have this AI in a black box or in a box, no contact with the outside world, and the only means of escape is this gatekeeper or this one person. And so he's essentially set up that to
mm,
see whether she has the ability and the I suppose the empathy, if you like, or the ability to understand other people's minds to be able to to get out. Very, very
mm,
interesting. So of course she does.
mm,
She has got that ability, and he does try to help her escape. So Caleb is trying to help, but of course he does something that Nathan doesn't expect.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So throughout the movie, the sort of the I say the facility, it's both his house and his lab. But
Yeah.
throughout the movie, power cuts keep happening, and when the power cuts happen, it goes on complete lockdown. All the doors lock, and Nathan explains this happens because if it was the other way around, if everything unlocked, then anybody could just come in, and what one power cut could kind of ruin him. So okay, fine. It then gets revealed a little bit later that it's Ava causing the power cuts. She has like an induction plate that charges her body, and she says if she reverses the current, it can basically break the fuse, basically.
Sure, everything, yeah.
Sure, exactly. So what Caleb does is, so as I mentioned before, Nathan's basically drunk throughout most of the movie. So Caleb basically just kind of leans into it. He kind of lets Nathan get drunk. He joins in with him a little bit to get him, extremely drunk. And then when the point where Nathan's kind of not really capable of doing a lot, Caleb slips into his room, the command center, and he rewrites the code to unlock doors if there's a lockdown instead of lock them. Which then, of course, at the climax of the movie, Ava, causes the power cut. They get let out. Nathan gets stabbed up a bunch. And then Ava can escape. But there's a bit of a twist. She doesn't just escape. She locks Caleb in with Nathan. And leaves him there.
Leaves him there.
Which is interesting. And I was thinking about this because in my mind there's kind of three possibilities. There's the first one, which is she's purely just thinking of her own escape, basically. At any cost, I need to get out of here. I don't really care about anybody else. So I guess that's one. The second one is she kind of views, she's only ever really interacted with Nathan as a human, and he's horrible. So there's a chance that she doesn't, for all she knows, all people are just as bad as he is. So she doesn't, fine, I'll leave Caleb here. He's just as bad as Nathan. And the third option is she understands that Caleb came in, so one person came in, which means only one person can leave, which I guess is the final case. Basically, Caleb gets there by helicopter, so maybe she doesn't know there's a helicopter, but whatever means Caleb got there, maybe she thinks, okay, one person in, one person out. It'd be weird if two people leave, which is quite interesting.
It is interesting, and is she effectively murdering Caleb? He's stuck in this place. If he ends up stuck there for too long, he's going to run out of oxygen because it's all airtight. It's underground, most of it. He's stuck there. Does she? Yeah, as you say, does she care, or does she do that maliciously, or is it just nothing to her? Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple little bits that Alex Garland throws in that I think are really interesting. So one of the things you see her just before the doors close, as she's going out, leaving the building, she looks straight ahead, but just at the last split second, her eyes move, and you can see she looks at him very, very briefly, and then the doors close. So she notices him. What that means, we don't know. Does that mean she's got a little bit of regret, or does it mean that, I don't know, she just notices the movement, or... Yeah, so there's that. And then the other thing that Alex Garland himself has talked about, which I think we've spoken about before, but he thinks the most important bit of the movie is that final scene right at the end, as she's walking up the steps to get to the outside door. She's already found some clothing to put on, and she's put on some skin, so she looks like a complete person now. And she's walking up the stairs and she's smiling. There's a smile on her face. And Alex Garland says for him, that's what proves she is actually intelligent. She has got consciousness.
Because she's not being watched anymore. Yeah.
There's nobody else to see her. So that smile is for her. That smile is her own inner world that is just expressing itself for nobody else. which I think is really interesting. So he thinks that she is conscious. She has got consciousness. Then she walks to the helicopter. There's no explanation. There's no conversation about him saying, what's going on?
Yeah.
I dropped off a bloke and now there's a woman. And the last little bit is she has this conversation with Caleb about what she'd want to see. And they sort of talk about going on a date. And she wants to go to an intersection to see people walking around and traffic and all of that. And that's kind of the hint that you get at the end. That's kind of where she is. So I don't think she's going to take over the world and destroy humanity, because I think she's curious. She wants to experience the world, but you don't know, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Because she's seems like you say, she's smiling. She seems content with what she's doing. Yeah, I guess she's escaped. Yeah. So it's. I wouldn't really call it.
So do we need another one?
Again, I was thinking about this. I was thinking, how could they butcher it with a sequel?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because what would it be? It would just turn into some like thriller crime type where she's on the run. And,
yeah. So no, we don't want another one. No. We don't want a sequel. We just love that film, and this is. I really wish that Hollywood and filmmakers in general would get this message that, and it's impossible because, of course, if it makes money, people want to make more of them. But just leave well alone. Some things need a sequel, they but lots of things just leave it alone. It was brilliant, standalone piece of work. Just leave it at that. And we definitely don't need a prequel where we learn about all of Nathan's earlier attempts, and it's just lovely as it is, just leave it alone, I would say.
Also, a little interesting little tidbit is, so Oscar Isaac plays Nathan, and he's created the monster in Ava, and he's also starring as Dr. Frankenstein in the most recent Frankenstein movie, which comes out.
Oh wow!
It might even be out now, but it's coming out soon. So I thought that was interesting how he's.
I didn't know that. I don't think it's out yet, but because I've not seen it advertised. But that sounds good. I must say that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Because I wanted to go and watch Tron Ares, which is the latest Tron film. I love Tron Legacy. I absolutely love that film. Love it to death. I watch it quite regularly. But everybody says it's really pants.
I've not actually seen it. I saw the trailer to Tron Ares when we were in the cinema the other week. Yeah. And I said, that looks cool. It's just like, you've not seen the first one though. I'm like, okay, sure, maybe I should watch the first one before thinking about this one.
I mean, the first one is an old one. It's like when video games first came out, Tron, the first Tron came out, and it's very naff, But apparently it's got. I mean, I've never watched it, to be honest. I've tried to watch it a couple of times. It's just too naff for me. But about 15 years later, they made Tron Legacy, and I really like that. That's a great. It's more visual than anything. The story's got a few holes in it, but I kind of liked it. But apparently this one is really bad.
Okay.
It's got Jared Leto in it. That sort of doesn't bode well. So yeah, a bit disappointed. I really wanted to go and watch it at our new IMAX cinema in Peterborough, but probably I'll go to Frankenstein instead when that comes out.
Yeah.
So just to finish off, then we've talked about this fictional AI, but you think about 10 years hence, we've now got these LLMs that seem to communicate in a very natural way, and I think a lot of people sort of believe they are talking to a person. There are cases of cyber relationships. People think they're talking to a boyfriend or girlfriend, or a coach, or a psychotherapist. What's the future for that, do you think? Where are we going to get to? Is Ex Machina the future, do you think?
I think it's a bit of a slippery slope. Like you say, people. I mean, there are some job interviews and stuff that are happening in AI. There's been a bunch of videos where the AI kind of bugs out, and then the person's in the interview, recording the AI bot just saying the same thing.
Oh, really?
Which is, I don't know how many of them are real, but if it is real, it's kind of worrying. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know about true artificial, robotic consciousness. I'm not too sure about that. I'm not well versed enough in the science to know if that's even a possibility. But in terms of like really complicated, really complex LLMs, that can basically pass for humans and essentially do anything a person could do when it comes to, working or whatever. I can see that's not too far off, really. I would imagine very soon. I mean, already you've got, you ring the GP, you're speaking to like a robot, right?
Yeah.
So I can imagine, 20 years time, a lot more sophisticated robots will come out, and then basically all tasks like that, all reception work and that kind of stuff, I can imagine it's just going to be an interface that you interact with through one of these chatbots or something.
Interesting.
In terms of like robots, as in having them wandering about like Ava is in the movie, I think the hardware's lacking quite substantially behind the software.
Yeah.
Because you see these. I guess the most intricate robots, I guess now, are the Boston Dynamics stuff, right? The dog or the one that kind of jumps over the assault course, that kind of stuff. But even then, they're kind of really janky. Well, for robots, they're great, but compared to a human, there's nowhere close to the level of articulation, right? So I think the hardware's very far away, whereas the software, maybe we're getting closer.
I think I agree with most of that. I think you're right in terms of an illusion of communication. We're close to being able to to have a conversation and say, like, I need an appointment. When can you fit me in? And you can have a conversation. I can do this and I can do that. This is with the really the super advanced LLMs, which are so much better than the bog standard chatbots that we get on websites. And it's almost like we're in two different universes. I mean, those things are absolutely chronic, which is rubbish, because all they do is just answer the same thing that you'd get if you looked on the FAQs. But somehow the difference between those two are ridiculous. So in a world where you have the ChatGPT level of sophistication on lots of websites and help and stuff like that, I can see that being useful. I think the big problem is the energy usage and the efficiency of it. That's probably holding us back on that one. But I don't think it's just the robotics. I don't think it's just the physical mechanisms of robots. I think the other problem that is nowhere near solution is, it's one thing to be able to put text together, because basically what LLMs do is they anticipate human sounding or human type text, and they read the text that we put in, and on the basis of that they use sophisticated collation and kind of correlation machines to work out what the most likely answer would be. But they don't really understand anything. They don't know what they're saying. There is no deeper understanding as far as I see it. Anyway, I mean, other people may disagree with this, but from what I understand, there's no actual deep understanding of what's happening. But it doesn't matter if you're writing it down. It's just text. These are just symbols. But if they're trying to interact in the world, I think that's much more difficult. And that's why self-driving cars, I still think, are a long way off in, unless it's very controlled. I know there are self-driving cars around, but they tend to be in quite controlled areas, geofenced. Let's put it this way. I don't think on British country roads and central London, I cannot see self-driving cars working there. And that is actually quite an easy problem.
Yeah.
These are just boxes on wheels navigating other boxes on wheels and roads. I mean, if you think about a robot in the real world trying to get around a house, for instance, and then negotiating what's going on here. Can you do the dishes? I want you to put them over there, please. Don't make sure you don't let that one dry. Make sure you dry that one with a tea towel. Make sure you put that one on top. They're not going to be able to understand any of this stuff.
No, exactly.
So
Like
I
you
think
said,
we're
yeah,
a
I
long
mean,
way off that.
like you say, with the roads, it's a simple problem that you've got
Yeah.
the rules of the road. There's however many road signs there are that all have this is exactly what this sign means. These road markers mean this, this, and this. So it's a very strict set of rules. All you need to do is tick them off and have some variance based on other drivers. But
And it's
generally,
two-dimensional as well, pretty much.
yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's very constrained. The rules are very tight. The only randomness is what other people are up to, and I can't crack it. So yeah, like you say, in a house when there are no rules on how to walk around the house. It's just you have complete freedom to do what you want. Yeah, it's not gonna.
And that's why we have robots in warehouses. I had a tour. I'm doing some work at the moment with the distribution center, and they've got a huge warehouse that is. One part of it is entirely robotic. It's just literally this robot going up and down the channels and just picking baskets and putting them back, and that's easy because it's really controlled. But then try just negotiating a factory or something that's got lots of stuff everywhere, and I just think there's so much there, and it's more than just the mechanics of it. It's understanding the world in which it exists. And even the LLMs are not doing that. They're not understanding the world. They're just doing a trick. They're pulling a trick, which is to anticipate what the next word's going to be, and they're really good at it. It shows how clever we are at programming these things, but or at least I know it's not everything isn't programmed, but how good we are at creating the conditions that these machines can learn, but they're not learning what's actually going on.
No, exactly. Yeah, like you say, it's just remember predictive text from back in the day. It's just that, but
exactly
better.
But with tons and tons of compute behind it, that makes it work. Yeah, so I don't think we're likely to see Ava. I don't think I'll meet her in my lifetime. Maybe yours. I mean, it will happen at some day, but I think we're a long way off.
Yeah, when I'm in the care home and they're wheeling me around.
Yes. I'm not anticipating Elon's robots helping me out anytime soon. So yeah, we'll just have to do it ourselves for now, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, everybody. And in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. Good to talk to you.
Nice one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.